Come outside for me, buddy. Hey, come here. Hey, where's your wife at, buddy? Where's your wife at?
She's dead on the floor in that room.
The man she shot in the face is now fighting to set her free. This surveillance camera recorded everything. 3 gunshots, her mother's screams, and the 14-year-old girl who walked back into the kitchen and sat down. Last week, her case reached the Mississippi Supreme Court. Her defense says the trial was unconstitutional. The prosecution says the jury got it right in under an hour.
She jumped. Look.
It's okay.
Does she still have the gun?
It's on the kitchen counter.
But the part nobody can explain is why the man she tried to kill is leading the fight to bring her home. Carly Madison Gregg was 14 years old, living in Brandon, Mississippi, a quiet suburb 20 minutes east of Jackson. Her mother, Ashley Smylie, was 40 years old, a math teacher at Northwest Rankin High School, the same school Carly attended. Colleagues described Ashley as dedicated. Students said she was the kind of teacher who made you feel like you mattered. Ashley had remarried. Her husband, Heath Smylie, was a physical therapist who worked 5 minutes from their home. By every account, the family was stable. But on May 27, 2026, 1 week ago, Carly's new defense attorney stood before the Mississippi Supreme Court and argued that everything about her trial was wrong. Attorney James Murphy told the justices the trial moved at what he called an extraordinary pace, 183 days from the shooting to sentencing. He said there wasn't enough time for proper psychiatric evaluation. He said the prosecution used improper rhetoric to scare the jury. And he said Carly's original defense team made critical mistakes that cost a 14-year-old girl her life. To understand why the Supreme Court is hearing this case, you need to see what happened inside that house. March 19, 2024, just after 4 in the afternoon. The family's surveillance camera was recording. Carly can be seen walking through the kitchen wearing a Nirvana t-shirt. She's holding something behind her back. Prosecutors later identified it as a .357 Magnum handgun. Watch what she does. She faces the camera the entire time, keeping the gun hidden from the lens. Then she turns and walks into her mother's bedroom. 3 shots, then her mother screams. Roughly 10 seconds later, Carly walks back into the kitchen. She picks up her mother's phone from the counter. She sits down on a stool. The 2 family dogs are standing beside her. She sends a text from her mother's phone to her stepfather, Heath. The message read, "When will you be home, honey?" She was luring him to the house. When Heath arrived and opened the kitchen door, the gun went off in his face before the door was even 3 to 4 inches open. He testified that he grabbed the gun after the first shot. Carly fired 2 more times as he wrestled it from her hands. He said her eyes were really big, like she had seen a demon or something.
Come outside for me, buddy. Hey, come here. Hey, where's your wife at, buddy? Where's your wife at?
She's dead on the floor in that room.
Heath survived. Ashley Smylie did not. But Carly's defense has always argued that what happened in that kitchen was not a deliberate act.
You tell me why someone who intended and had planned to murder someone wouldn't have taken the camera she knew was in the kitchen and was easy to see down before she did anything.
In the weeks before the shooting, Carly's medication had been changed. She had been on Lexapro, a common antidepressant, and was switched to a different prescription. Her defense team argued the medication change triggered a dissociative episode. Dr. Kristen Clark, a forensic psychologist, testified that Carly suffered from an unspecified schizophrenic disorder. She said Carly had been hearing voices, and that as a young child, Carly had been placed in equestrian therapy, horse therapy, specifically because she was experiencing auditory hallucinations. The defense argued Carly was in a psychotic state when she pulled the trigger, that she didn't understand what she was doing and couldn't distinguish right from wrong. At the Supreme Court last week, Murphy went further. He argued the entire trial was compromised. 183 days, he said, was not enough time for a case involving complex psychiatric evidence and a 14-year-old defendant. He said the court ordered Carly to undergo psychiatric evaluation before the defense had even formally filed an insanity defense, a procedural error that tainted the process from the start. And then Murphy raised something the jury never should have heard. During the sentencing phase, the prosecutor told the jury that if they gave Carly life with the possibility of parole, she could be out in as little as a year, that they might see her at the supermarket, at church, in public. Murphy called it improper golden rule rhetoric, using fear to manipulate a jury into choosing the harshest sentence.
She may be out in as little as a year, and again, I'm paraphrasing, but you may see her at the supermarket or you may see her at church. You may run into her at any place outside in public, and again, we would argue, and we argued in our brief, that that is improper golden rule rhetoric. It's appealing to the fears of the community.
It was working. The defense was building a case that Carly Gregg, a mentally ill child on the wrong medication, never got a fair trial. And then her own family did something no one expected. In February 2026, a nonprofit organization was registered with the Mississippi Secretary of State's office. It was called Carly's Warriors Foundation. The board of directors has 6 members. 3 of them are listed as chief executive officers: Robert and Vicki Breland, Carly's maternal grandparents, Ashley Smylie's own parents, and Heath Smylie, the man Carly shot in the face. The mother's parents, the surviving victim, fighting to reduce the sentence of the girl who killed their daughter and shot their stepfather. The group argues Carly's sentence was disproportionate, that a 14-year-old with documented mental illness on medication that had just been changed deserves a chance at eventual release. Letters of support arrived from as far as North Yorkshire, England. A woman named Lisa Featherstone wrote to the court that she speaks with Carly regularly by video and traveled from England to Mississippi to meet her family in person. After the Supreme Court hearing, Murphy told reporters he had spoken to Carly recently. He said she was in good spirits, hopeful. It was almost enough to make you believe this was a tragedy, not a crime. But go back to the kitchen camera. At 4:14, Carly texted Heath from her mother's phone to lure him home. At 4:16, 2 minutes later, she started texting her own friends. She told a friend she had put 3 in her mom, and she had 3 more waiting for her stepfather when he got home. That friend came to the house. Carly met her at the door. She asked, "Have you ever seen a dead body? My mom is in there." She showed her friend the body. Then she told the friend to wait in the backyard. Moments later, the friend heard gunshots. Carly had ambushed Heath at the door. And there was one more detail. During the investigation, officers discovered that a second surveillance camera was recording in the kitchen that day. They found it inside the refrigerator. Carly had hidden it. The prosecution added a tampering with evidence charge. The defense says she was in a dissociative state, that she didn't understand what she was doing. But the prosecution's response was simple. Prosecutor Catherine Newman pointed to the timeline. 2 minutes after shooting her mother, Carly was texting friends, FaceTiming, making plans. The friend arrived at 4:58. There is a 40-minute window where Carly was lucid enough to text, plan, lure, and conceal.
And I know that she told Brooke Wafer, her friend, that I put 3 in my mom and I got 3 more waiting for my stepdad. You think that sounds like an insane person? No. That's a person that knew this gun right here, this .357 Magnum, had 7 rounds. That's a person that knew that she'd put 3 of them in her mama's head. She had 3 more waiting for Heath, and who knows what she was doing with the last one.
She said, "This isn't somebody who's just out of her mind." Before the trial began, the prosecution offered Carly a deal, 40 years in the Mississippi Department of Corrections. She would have been released at age 54. Carly said no. Her defense team chose to go to trial with an insanity defense. They gambled that a jury would believe a 14-year-old girl with a history of hearing voices had suffered a psychotic break. The jury deliberated for less than 1 hour. Guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, attempted murder, tampering with evidence. 2 life sentences plus 10 years.
Verdict of the jury is count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment.
She turned down 40 years and got life. And when her new attorney stood before the Mississippi Supreme Court last week and argued the sentence was unconstitutional, Justice Josiah Coleman asked a question that cut through everything. Coleman questioned whether Carly's sentence is even technically life without parole or simply life.
Counselor, let me stop you there. I've read the sentencing order. The sentencing order in this case says that she's been sentenced to life imprisonment, which under the statute, and I think this is consistent with the argument you make on the sentencing issue, the statute, in subsection 2 of the sentencing statute for first-degree murder, gives two options. The jury can do life, can give life imprisonment, and if the jury doesn't, then the judge can assign a term of years. I don't know that I agree with you that this is a life without the possibility of parole sentence. The sentencing statute in subsection 3 seems to say there's life imprisonment. It doesn't seem to say, it does say there's life imprisonment, and then there's life without the possibility of parole or a term of years. So I'm reading this sentencing order, and to me, it's life imprisonment, not life without the possibility of parole. So why do you take the position that the sentencing order, what the sentencing order says is not what the sentence is?
Because under Mississippi law, there is a difference. And if the sentence is life rather than life without parole, the entire constitutional argument falls apart. The justices also questioned why no continuance was ever filed if the trial moved too fast. They noted defense counsel actively participated throughout, and they asked Murphy to point to a specific reason the trial should have been delayed. He couldn't. Go back to the afternoon of March 19th after the shooting. Carly jumped a fence and ran. A Mississippi Highway Patrol helicopter was deployed. Deputies found her sitting in a field about a mile from the house. When the deputy approached her and asked if she was involved in the incident, she said, "Yes, sir. Is my stepdad okay?"
Is my stepdad okay? I don't know, baby. I can't talk to you.
When officers tested her hands for gunpowder residue, she said she didn't remember which hand she shot with. An officer asked if she was okay. She said, "Yeah, I'm fine."
Which hand did you shoot with? Okay. Which hand did you shoot with?
The Carly's Warriors Foundation argues she was a sick child who needed treatment, not a life sentence. They point to the medication change, the auditory hallucinations, the equestrian therapy, the age. The state's response was direct. Special Assistant Attorney General Allison Hartman told the court that defense counsel withdrew their own proposed sentencing instructions and agreed to the state's version, giving up any right to challenge them on appeal, that no continuance was ever requested, and no objection was raised to the prosecutor's comments about the supermarket and the church. In other words, every argument the defense is making now is an argument they chose not to make when it mattered. Carly Gregg is 16 years old. She is housed in the Youthful Offender Unit at Central Mississippi Correctional Facility. She takes academic classes, she receives mental health counseling, and according to her attorney, she is hopeful.
The guilt phase issues as time and interest allow.
The Mississippi Supreme Court has not yet issued a ruling. When it does, it will decide one of the most uncomfortable questions in American criminal law: whether a 14-year-old girl who shot her mother in the face, lured her stepfather home to ambush him, showed her friend the body, hid the evidence, and told everyone what she did, deserves the possibility of one day going home. The man she shot thinks she does. September 20th, 2024. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder, attempted murder, tampering with evidence. Less than 1 hour of deliberation. 2 life sentences plus 10 years. Prosecutor Catherine Newman said Carly Gregg showed zero remorse. She sat on that stool for 40 minutes. She texted her stepfather from her mother's phone. She texted her friends. She showed one of them the body. She hid the camera in the refrigerator. And 2 years later, the man she shot, the man who wrestled the gun from her hands, registered a nonprofit to fight for her freedom. The Supreme Court will decide, but the kitchen camera already did. Ashley Nicole Smylie was 40 years old. She was a math teacher, she was a mother, and she was killed by her own daughter in the house where they lived together. If this case made you question what justice looks like, subscribe. We do this every week.